Hey, so I just wanted to talk through what I do on a Sunday that helps me get better results. Now, it's the first time I've recorded this on a Facebook Live in landscape, so we'll see how that goes. And currently, if you're watching, you can see that I'm sat in the car. It is a very rainy day, so hopefully the sound of the rain won't be too noisy. On a Sunday, I have 3 children, so Sundays are kind of busy. On a Sunday, I am always for at least an hour at a hockey pitch somewhere in the country. Today I happen to be close to home, which is nice. It's always cold, it's always rainy, it's always miserable. Always make sure that I support my children as they're going in, so I see that they're settled, they're okay, they're practicing, they're happy. They know I get really cold and miserable, so I used to just come back to the car and have a cup of tea to warm up, but now I've decided that that is actually valuable time that I can be doing something productive for my day with. So what I do now is I've always done a Sunday planning session. That's something I've done for a very long time, in not just for my business but personally as well. It started with using the Daily Greatness Life Planner and the Daily Greatness Business Planner, and it's kind of evolved from there. So if you're not checking in with yourself every Sunday, getting yourself ready for the week ahead, then I strongly urge that you start to do that. It's made a big impact on my business because I can see week in, week out, what's working, what isn't, how I'm feeling, whether I'm on top of my game, whether there's been things that haven't worked for me. And over time, by doing these weekly check-ins, I get a bigger picture, a broader picture of how I am feeling in my business, things that are working in my business, where I'm getting results and where I'm not getting results. So what I do first of all is I check in a little bit about how I give myself a score out of 10 on how I'm feeling about my week that's just gone. So out of 10, was it a good week? Was I feeling good? Was I feeling happy? Was I pleased with the results that I got? So I always start with a score out of 10. Then I go straight into what my stats were for that week. So I will look at what my new numbers are for Instagram followers, what my numbers are for my Facebook page, my LinkedIn, what my email list figures are. And I'll just do, because I have it in one particular journal, I will then flick back to the week before and add a plus or minus score for how many new or followers I've got, or how many I've lost, because on Instagram that's something I'm really experiencing at the moment. One week things will massively jump ahead and then the next week they'll be massively down, but overall I'm looking for that progress. So I will then, when I look at what those numbers are, I will then go back and think, well, was I active on those? Was I actually commenting, liking, sharing? Was I deliberately networking as opposed to just putting my content out? In terms of my list building, if I have time, I will think, well, what was I doing? Was I list building? Did I have an advert out? Was there the front end of a funnel actually going out to people? If I have got a lead magnet out at the time, which I try to have at least one out, but if I have one out, is it converting? Am I getting the results I want? Does it need tweaking? So I'll have a look at all of those numbers first, but then I'll do a sort of bigger dive into how I feel the business has gone, how I've been feeling personally, what the challenges have been that particular week. So if I've been launching, did I feel well? Did I feel healthy? Was I pleased with the results I got? What were the things that were a bit of a struggle for me? If I was hosting a webinar, was I in the right place? Was I as prepared as I needed to be? Was my lighting okay? Did the recording equipment work? What were the highs and lows? If I've been coaching people that week, one-to-one or video, what were the successes? What were the losses? What were the things that didn't go so well? What are the things I perhaps need to go away and learn? So I look at everything really in terms of someone's just driving in and out. I look at everything in terms of, am I getting the results I want and how am I feeling about it? So that's me looking, that's my reflection part, if you like. So once I've done that reflection piece, I will then be going into looking at the week ahead. What tasks do I have to do? What are the absolute, and I have 6 boxes for this. My first box is the urgent, so the things that absolutely have to happen that week. I then have a box that is pressing, important, but maybe not urgent. And I then have a box just for family household stuff that needs doing, maybe phone calls I need to make for the kids, maybe specific exercise that I want to get done, maybe there's something for someone's birthday I've got to plan. All of that stuff goes in the family box, so I don't forget about it when I'm time blocking in a few minutes. I also then look at, so that's 3 of the boxes. One box is about what I'm going to delegate. I don't have a huge team at the moment. A lot of it's me, but sometimes I've got things that I can outsource to someone who does some social media or creates some posts for me. Often it's just images that they make. Also things that are going to go to my accountant or my bookkeeper. So I have a delegate box, and then I have a box that is stuff that I'm going to cover next week so that I don't forget that it's there. And then I have one box that is the bigger project. So it might be, so for example, this month I'm in launch for my membership, and my event's coming up. So, and early next month in March, I have a book proposal that has to be completed. So those 3 things would go in there: my launch, my book proposal, and details for my event, so I don't forget what's on the horizon in the big plans. It's very strange doing it in landscape. I don't know where to look, so hopefully this is going to be okay. So once I've done that, and I sit and I write out absolutely everything. Now, some of this I'll have had from the week before, because as I've gone through the week before, there have been tasks that have been flagged up and I've written them in the to do next week box. So it's simply a matter of carrying them forward. But sometimes, there's things that crop up, or I realise, that for if I'm mid-launch, that there is a particular sequence that has to go out in my funnel that hasn't been designed yet, or I've got images that need to be created that haven't been designed yet. Or sometimes my podcast I tend to do in, I say lumps, that's perhaps not the nicest way to describe it, but sometimes I'll become aware that my podcast needs more in the feed for it. So podcast will be in the urgent box. And once I've got all of those tasks on this one piece of paper with 6 boxes on it, I then have a really clear idea of what I have to get done. Then I will have, it's a 5-day planner, but it has the weekend as well at the end, and I can time block in it. So I add in all the things like I roughly know, of course, when I'm going to be picking the children up, and I have downtime between 3 p.m. and I have downtime until about 7:38. I might pick things up for an hour or so then. So I block in that downtime. I would actually write in, that might actually include some exercise time. My daughter and I are meditating together in the evenings at the moment before bedtime, so that would all get time blocked as well. But I block in, first of all, the first thing I do is I block in content time. So the first thing in my day that no one else has access to in my diary, hi Emma, morning, I'm just talking through my Sunday planning. The first thing I do is I block out an hour first thing in the morning that is to do with content. So that would be about me prepping what's going in my Facebook Lives. That would be me planning what videos are coming up. That would be me planning the blogs that I'm going to write. And actually a lot of it is to do with repurposing content. But because that stuff is so important for building my audience and building my network and building on my own credibility and authority, that comes first in my day. And the reason I do it then is that I'm fresh, and I know that I'm just much more switched on first thing in the morning. So if I have that blocked in, because let's face it, when it comes to Facebook Lives and going on social media, it's easy to miss that piece out. But that is the bit that gives value to your audience. So I now make that an absolute priority, and I will be working on that between 9 and 10 a.m. A lot of it will be prepping videos or even recording videos. You'll often see me go live at that time of the day, or then repurposing something for a blog, or in fact guest blogging. I also, in that hour, once I've done some video creation or a blog creation, I then use part of that hour for what I think of as working on my business rather than in my business. And for me, that would be where I block in the time to be deliberately connecting with other people in my industry, connecting with people who are perhaps a lot more established than I am, or all my peers who I perceive as being on a similar level to me. reaching out to them, checking in with what they're doing, building contact and connection really, with a view to potential collaboration down the line. But of course collaboration doesn't come out of nowhere, you have to establish those connections first. So in that hour that I block off, usually 9 till 10 every single morning, that is what I will then be doing. So that's the first part of my time blocking. I will then, after that, I often have my first client session, or I'm working with a mentor at about 10 o'clock most days, so that goes in my diary. And even though I have it on my iCalendar, and I have it on my phone and I have it on my laptop, for me, actually getting a pencil and putting it in makes me see the parts where there is time for me to walk the dog. And if I am walking the dog, how can I leverage that time? What phone calls could I make? What lives could I do? How can I make that a piece of time that works for me? So it might be, what podcast am I listening to? What live do I want to watch that actually I could listen to in my earbuds? And I will work out, because the dog walk has to happen. In summer I do them obviously in the evening when it's lighter, but in winter I hate walking in the dark, particularly because we're near the woods, it's a bit freaky. So I will make sure those dog walks then become constructive time. Obviously it's lovely to have my dog walk, and sometimes I might go, actually that's some downtime, that's going to be the time I switch off today. So then I will look at what else has to happen that day, when it's happening, if there's a launch, when am I building the assets for it, when am I building the material, when's that all happening, and absolutely everything, including my exercise, when I have to get, some frozen things out of the freezer for the children, everything about when I'm going shopping, everything about how I'm going to make the best use of time in the car. So as a mum of 3 and children doing a lot of clubs, I spend a good amount of time in the car that could be dead time. So I look at how I can use that time to the best of my ability. Now sometimes I might recognise that I'm going to have a really, really busy day, so that time in the car is going to be switch off time. But I make sure I understand when that's happening. So that's me. I time block all of my day and all of my week that's coming, and I also then work out when those personal calls are going to happen, where those phone calls I need to make, the appointments I need to arrange. I make sure that is diarised in my time plan as well, because I'm a busy person, and if I don't have it in my diary, if it's not in my plan, probably won't happen. And that's the thing that could push me over the edge to feeling a bit overwhelmed and burnt out. My dad's on now, morning. So what I then do for my week, I then look at what's coming. What are my big goals? What are my targets? How much reach do I want on my social media? How much am I looking to grow by? And what actions am I going to take to get it there? So, these things don't happen just by themselves. So I plan in what are my strategies, what are my targets, and where does my main focus need to be this week? So that is... I actually use both because, Emma, so I've got a question, do I use a phone diary or a paper one? I use both. I use my phone because it connects obviously to my laptop, so when I'm working most of the time it does on my desktop. I personally just use the iCloud one because it connects easily to my online booking calendar. I use YouCanBook.me, I think that's what it's called. I use that so that I can open my diary to my clients, so they don't have to book in directly with me, it all just happens. But I think I really, really recommend the Daily Greatness Business Planner. And I like to block it out in pencil, even though I've got it in my diary already, because there's something about committing to paper when everything's happening, when I'm exercising and when all that is going on. And little things like, when am I going to make the food? When is the kitchen going to get cleaned? So having it all in front of me just gives me a real sense of power that I'm on top of my game. So yeah, I then look at where my attention needs to be for the week ahead, and that's really easy because I've got these 6 blocks that I did earlier about what I have to do this week. So I think, well, actually, what are my priorities? And then I look really closely at what have been my really big wins, what have been my successes this week, because I think it's important to acknowledge when those successes have happened. Otherwise, we're just in a hamster wheel doing all the stuff all of the time. And acknowledging when you've had a win, when you've had a success, when you've done something new and pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, I think is hugely valuable. So I write these things down for myself, so I have them there and I keep them in one particular journal that is like my Sunday review journal, if you like, so that I can see my progress. I actually then have at the end of the month, I have like a whole other level of reflection, which I'll be talking about in my membership when we do our which it's open at the moment, doors close on Wednesday, and I will be walking all of those members through what that process is for me every month so that they can start doing it for themselves. This reflection piece and this planning piece have made a big difference to my life, not just in business, but as a busy mum of 3. It means that I'm looking after myself too, because I can see those potential downtime moments. I can plan in advance what I'm going to do for myself, or if I can leverage that time for my business. So I hope that's been useful. As you probably have seen by now, I am hosting a webinar on Tuesday night. It's a rerun of a webinar that had so much great feedback, and people are implementing left, right and centre on how to go after this piece of success, how you build it for yourself, how you make yourself stand out from the crowd, because it is a business strategy as well as a confidence piece. And that's what I do. I take the business strategic stuff and I mix it up with the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, so that you can turn your mind round to an absolute powerhouse for going after what you want. So I post the link. I think I've posted the link above this live if you're watching on replay. If not, I'll just pop it into the comments now, because I think I've got it here. So yeah, if you can join us live on Tuesday. Personally, although I had this available on replay, I think people get better results when they're in the room as it's happening, as it's live, and taking a bit of accountability into implementing some of the tips that I share as well. So that is it from me. I am now going to go and stand outside in the pouring rain and freezing cold to go and support my daughter, now that I've done this live and I've done my Sunday planning. I hope that you have taken a lot from this and that you will start doing it for yourself, because this is an absolute game changer. That is it from me.